Okay, well, I pull the group up. Welcome to anyone who is just hopping on. I'm just going to get the group chat up. Okay. All right. Okay, so I am going to hop in and welcome everyone to the second episode of Sacred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. So the concept of this conversation, this podcast, is that to hold a space of sacred conversations with women who embody and teach the sacred work of the divine feminine. So we're here to break the taboo about all things taboo before they were taboo, when they were sacred. So this month I have Joy Nied here. And before I jump into her beautiful introduction, just to sort of draw an umbrella of like, well, what is the divine feminine? So the divine feminine and the sacred work of the divine feminine falls under the umbrella of anything under sacred sexuality, herbalism, whether someone's an artist, a musician, a dancer, metallurgy, astrology, crystal work, womb wisdom, energy workers, healers. If you fall under this, it's a massive umbrella. And so this is part of what I love talking about, is bringing this awareness to, oh my gosh, someone might be here listening today, not really sure that their work is under this umbrella of the divine feminine. And you might realize that it is. And all of this work, the sacred component is that it's done in the name of truth, love, and for the greatest good of humanity. Part of my belief is that we've been living in a world that's been greatly disconnected from this sacred experience of life. So part of my mission is to be here as a voice of truth. Personally, I show up through love and pleasure, and then break the binds of what we've been taught as taboo. So in this case, sex as sex, not sacred sex, as drugs, and the sacred component as Mother Nature's medicine, and music and dance as movement to connect us to our soul. So this is that sex, drugs, and rock and roll component. We're shattering it and bringing in this new perspective. So this month, Joy is here. Joy helps people to reconnect with their higher selves through quantum healing hypnosis. So in these sessions, what she does with her clients is she helps them access past, parallel, and future lives to connect them directly with their higher self. This means either directly with their higher self or with their guides, angels, or ancestors. Why? So they can then remember who they are at a soul level and what they are meant to be doing here and now in this lifetime. So what I love about this work is Joy and I were kind of talking about it. It's like, well, this doesn't necessarily fall under sex, drugs, or rock and roll. But when we look at this work of the divine feminine, like it taps into divination, healing, which kind of falls into like that woo-woo category, which is created a taboo for, especially for women who are working in this field. And it sort of does, I love what you brought in, it does kind of fit under the drugs. So if you wanted to expand on that.
Oh, well, because the part of the mind that we're accessing in these sessions is it's the same place that people go when they use psychedelics. So, but we don't need the psychedelics to get there. So yeah.
I love that. Yeah, we don't need it. Joy will take you there. I'm so excited that you're here. I'm so excited. I've just got to tell everyone too, like, I'm just like, to get an hour with Joy to just chit chat is so exciting. And for you to share your magic. So I guess that's sort of the best place to start. If you really want to tell us more about what your sacred work, what this quantum healing hypnosis technology is.
Sure. So I am an intuitive energy healer and consciousness explorer, and I specialize in quantum healing hypnosis. And I'll break that down because what does that mean? So the intuitive energy healer part is because I'm a Reiki master and a sound healing therapist. So I work with both of those forms of energy healing, and the consciousness explorer, that's more the quantum healing hypnosis part. And what I do, are we talking, do you want me to share like what the technique is, or because you
I mean, I think whatever, yeah, whatever you feel
yeah.
like it's share what makes it such a powerful practice, which we can speak to more too, because I've gotten to experience it, and it's been it's changed a whole avenue of my path. But yeah, just share so everyone knows what it is.
Yeah. So the technique is rooted in past life regression. That's kind of how it was discovered and developed. And I'm trained in Dolores Cannon's method, as well as Candace Carl Goldman. So QHHT, quantum healing hypnosis technique, and then beyond quantum healing is Candace Carl Goldman's technique. And so what this is we're taking you into, it's a spiritual form of hypnosis. So I lead you into a meditative state, basically, with an induction. And so if you've ever been in a meditation and had these like otherworldly experiences, that's where we're going. So we're setting the conscious mind to the side, and we're just going on a journey together. And it really depends on what your intention for the session is. This work is very intentional. We have a list of questions that we focus on, but I think why it's so incredible is that we're able to access these like higher dimensional beings, really. You at the soul level, we're able to reconnect you with that. Sometimes you do go to past lives, parallel future lives. Sometimes it's just a story that your guides want you to hear or see to help you with whatever your intention was. So yeah, it's pretty magical because clients are basically at one part in the session, they're channeling their higher self or they're channeling their guides. And that's pretty special. Yeah, you can feel the energy shift when that starts happening.
Mm. I love that too. Like, I think from my experience, like how you, like you said, you set up these list of questions. And what I loved about it was like when Joy had said it to me, it was like, I want you to just like come up with a list of like 10 to 20 questions that are like questions that you would want to ask in this life, that you just like those questions that you can't really get answers to.
Mhm.
Those are the questions to bring into these sessions.
Right.
So you really do, even before you hop into a session with someone, there's so much groundwork and intention setting that's happening as you sit like, well, what are those life questions that I've always wanted but can't quite get the answers to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, as soon as you make the decision to do a session, it's like your guides and my guides are all starting to collaborate. And yeah, the magic is already happening behind the scenes. It's so beautiful.
Yeah. So what, because I think this is, and the reason that I love getting to have these conversations in this space and sharing these conversations with other people, feel like it's like, sometimes these are the conversations where it's like the conversations you would have when you sit down with someone and get to know them.
Mhm.
But it's like great to share this on a broader view, because although we are all unique and different, it's really powerful to sit and hear someone's story and hear the pieces that resonate with you.
Mhm.
And usually you come to work as sacred as this for a reason, and very much like your work in itself, like you said, it's to help you remember who you are at a soul level, like why you're here in this lifetime.
Mhm.
So usually you don't just stumble upon this by chance.
Right.
So what was the journey for you? How did you get to this monumental work?
So great question. Okay. So I've always been intuitive since I was a kid. As I like my first experience with the spirit world that I remember, I was 10 years old. But I didn't have a support system. I didn't have a way to develop those gifts. And so it was something that I hid and just kept, like only my close friends knew about it. And I don't know. I just never learned how to use those. So how did I get in this work? Well, it all started with a snake bite. And I I was working a job that I absolutely despised. The way I would describe this job was that it was sucking the life out of me. And words matter. I mean, in retrospect, I think about that. I'm like, wow, it really was sucking the life out of me. I was so miserable. And I had a weekend off and I went to go visit a friend in Austin. And she's a shaman and a healer in her own right. And we go on a hike and bam, I get bit by a snake. And I knew it happened immediately. I didn't know what it was. I never even saw the snake. I ended up in the ICU for a week, almost lost my leg or my foot. Actually, it was so traumatic. But because my friend was a shaman, we immediately started looking at the spiritual meaning behind snakes and snake bite, which is all about rebirth and transformation and change. And so I really started to take a look at my life from that point on. Like, what am I doing? Why am I working this job? I'm not happy. This just doesn't make sense. So I started making little decisions to change all of that. And that led me the first step was end of life doula. I studied as an end of life doula, but then COVID hit and I didn't have access to dying people because everything was locked down. So I couldn't do the training. And then honestly, I spun out. I was spinning out a little bit in COVID, like I think we all did. But then I found meditation and I started my meditation practice. And I really started listening to my guides. And the next step was Reiki. I started studying Reiki. And that was incredible. It was very helpful in my healing journey. But next was quantum healing hypnosis. And that changed everything. It was like, I finally found the thing. I finally found the thing that was going to allow me to use my gifts that fit like a glove. So I work with my clients on this, like to find your superpower. How do you find your superpower? And it's that thing that's so easy for you that doesn't seem that special, but it's just so easy and it brings you so much joy. And as soon as I found this modality, it was probably a month after I found out about it that I signed up for the training and started studying. And it was just, it was my thing. This is how I'm going to serve humanity. Like it's, oh my gosh, I get to help people reconnect with themselves at the soul level. I just, So that's how
I love that all started with the snake bite because like snake, like you said, rebirth and renewal, and it's on that metaphysical level, it's so powerful, but it's also so connected to the feminine energy, like the rebirth, and which I think, and this is part of like why, again, this space is even here, is because so many women right now, we've lived so much of our lives in masculine energy and that hustle and doing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, we've been in this like feminine amnesia and we're all kind of being called back to it. And it's not that we're letting go of what we used to be. We're finding a balance, but of this bringing feminine back online, and still, in our masculine energy, because we have to be, to have that balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, like you think of Adam and Eve with the snake and just that Kundalini rising and the snake. So it's so like, of course, that's how it started. And you didn't mention the part with that story too, was like that how monumental that week off was in that soul sucking or life sucking job.
It's funny because that particular week, what I was going back to was one of our busiest weeks of the year. I was scheduled 60 plus hours. So I was going to be working pretty much 10 to 12 hours a day, just brutal, so grueling. And I look back on it and I'm like, thanks guys. That's amazing that you got me out of that. Yeah.
So, go ahead.
It's also a cautionary tale, though, because I work with my clients to connect with their own spirit guides and with their higher self. And the thing is, if you don't listen to them, which I wasn't, I was blocking them at every avenue. If you're not listening, they're going to get louder and louder and more dramatic with their messaging. And I don't want anyone else to have to spend a week in the ICU. So that's a big part of why I do this work as well, because
Right. Yeah. And I think that's really huge for everyone catching this live or on the replay. That's that's gold right there, right? Like
Mhm.
how loud do the signs and communication have to get before we finally choose to listen? And this is so similar to my journey, right? Like miscarriage and the like my period cramps would be so intense twice. I had people call an ambulance because of the pain, having fibroids and abnormal cell growth, like everything kept like, listen, listen, listen. And there's a point where we have to go, okay, like our bodies communicate to us, which is, I love this because it's this work on the intuitive level. And this, your work is specifically supporting people to tap in and reestablish that connection with their intuition. That's part of what is so life changing, I think, of the experience when they get to work with you. We'll take that as the lead into the next question. But to you, like, why, for your clients, for people who come to work with you, why do you feel it's so important? How does it serve them so deeply? Also, even more deeply, or still in line with that, like how does it continue to serve you?
So for my clients, it's a way for them to remember who they really are, who they are at the soul level, for them to for people who are drawn to doing past life work. And sometimes when you discover things about a past life, it allows you to know yourself on a level that it's hard to even explain. I'll give an example. So one of my first sessions, so always when I was growing up, I was really drawn to Native American culture. I always thought that I had this dream of going to a summer camp or like going to live on a reservation and learning their ways. That's not really going to happen, Joy. But it seemed so normal to me. Like I didn't even think that was a strange thought. And so in one of my first sessions, it turns out that I was a Native American healer. And it allowed me to know myself on a level that just a part of myself that I never really understood, that never made sense. I could finally settle into, oh, this is who I am. So yeah, it allows you to get to know yourself on a soul level.
Yeah.
Ultimately. Yeah.
Which is, and that's part of, like, I think what I love. I remember getting ready to do my session with you, and it was like, who's gonna come through? I
Right.
remember thinking that, like, what's it gonna be? Is it gonna be galactic? Is it gonna
Yeah.
be an ancestor? Like which guide, which angel?
Right.
Not having a clue. And I mean, my session with you too, like, blew my mind. It was, I could never have predicted. It did go to for me, it went to past life, which put into context so much in this lifetime, and literally healed some body pain that I haven't had since our session, which we were just reflecting on was back at the beginning of March. So to go from March until almost August, like, since the pain came in when I had Ryla, who's 4 now. So for 4 years. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the other layer of it, is that we're able to do physical healing on a spiritual level, because you started getting that pain at the same time in that past life when a traumatic event happened. Oh, I'm getting chills. When a traumatic event happened, and then we were able to go to that event and heal the wounds that were still that were unhealed, that were keeping it stuck. And it's just, yeah, it still blows my mind that now your shoulder doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like, should we share more about what came through? I feel like
That's up to you.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's so worth it. So, I mean, everyone knows, if you're catching this, so you probably know that I do a lot of work with Mary Magdalene. And so where I was taken to was a past life where I was a mother in southern France. And knew that I was working sort of with this divine feminine. Like I knew that that's where there was these feminine circles that I was part of. But what I was brought to was seeing this deep reflection of what my life was like with my family at that time, and what the love was like with my husband in that life, and what my love was like with my children, and what my love was like with the job that I was working at that time. And I just like, even talking about it now, like I can't believe it was like a 5-hour session that felt like an hour and a half.
Right.
And it's crazy because it's like, yes, it was a 5-hour session, but in the session, it was a full day. It was like a full day in the life of that person. And,
Chills.
like it was just, I think too, of like the emotions that come through. Like, I feel like when you're like, talking about, well, it was, this incident, this attack that had happened. I remember at the time being in this thing thinking, oh my God, now I'm experiencing this trauma, and now I'm not going to be able to unknow it. And now I'm going to have like this additional trauma to process. And it was like, in like feeling this deep grief. I'm like, oh my God, like so much makes sense. But now like all the feelings surfaced. But that also, I think, is part of the practice, is those feelings from, I'm getting goosebumps now,
Me too.
from lifetimes have been, that's literally what was coming up, right? Was the healing. Like that was what needed to be remembered and to come to the surface for that physical healing in this lifetime to be able to take place. Like it's that was the unbinding. And yes, it was uncomfortable because it was like experiencing the deep heartbreak of the loss. It ended up being the loss. And you have to understand too, in this 5 hours, what I was seeing was the deep love that I had for my husband in this life. And so it was like me going through like the unfolding of what a beautiful, beautiful life I had. And then later at the end, losing this, going to the moment where my husband was taken from me, and where I was, gosh, like all the little bits, but I was the town baker. So we had this beautiful home, with myself, my husband, and our 2 children. And that was like this, it was feeling the beauty of what it was like to get up and to bake this bread, and then to take the bread and my kids into town. And I love people and I love social networking. And so it was like to get to take my bread in and deliver it to everyone. And my day was just like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Meg is so happy. And seeing my husband off, and he was a fisherman, and like we could just see how deeply in love we were. And when he would come in the afternoon, we'd go down and meet him, and he'd give us fish to bring home for dinner, and the kids would get to see him. And then he'd go about the end of day tasks, and then come home, and we'd have this beautiful time as a family. And then we lived like a port town, because he was a fisherman, and there was like a path that went from our home down to the beach. And this was one of the things that my husband and I would do, is we would take these, once the kids were asleep, we would go and we would walk along the beach. And there was the one night where pirates, yeah, I guess I'm like, is there another name? But I think pirates is really exactly what they were. Just attacked us in the dark, and my husband was killed, and I was stabbed in the shoulder, which was the pain that I was experiencing, which started at the age, for me, that in this life, the age when it had happened in that life. So this was the connection. So it was so powerful. And like not even like a tickle of this pain since the session.
I have such chills. Well, and the next part is, I think, even the most beautiful part of the whole story, is that she was able to process the grief from that lifetime. And because the grief was preventing her from reuniting with her soulmate in the spirit world. And so when she processed the grief, which I mean, in the session probably took a minute, like, it moves really fast. And And once she was able to process that, it cleared the pain, and those two souls were able to reunite because her grief was so strong that it was blocking her from joining him in the spirit world. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's amazing, like all the little pieces that come through, there's like pieces that were put together directly like after the session in the evening.
Yeah.
So that was what, yeah, this getting to be in the space and getting to work in like what I call the astral realm. He came through. So the grief was preventing her from being able to be with him. But in this moment, we'd gone through all this, and then he came and, like asked her to come and be with him. And it was so beautiful just to see their reunion. And like pieces had come like things that had come through, like they were in France. So what I was told was her name was Paisley, but then after I thought like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's not a French name. And then I Googled what the French word for Paisley is, and it's cashmere. And then but not like cashmere in terms of like the material cashmere, but cashmere in the French word actually means like the hidden, like the like what's hidden, which is also like so in line with this work of the divine feminine. And the gospel of Mary Magdalene and everything, because that's also, those are the hidden gospels, or the apocryphal, which means hidden. And then seeing that, then like again after the session, I had this, I could remember like it brought through, and I have it written down, I can't think of it at the moment, but like one of the like endearing terms that he would use that was, it was like, and it was in French and it had just come through. It's so funny, I can't think of it right now. But it was like my softness was what it translated to. So it was like an endearing term that he did have for like cashmere being similar to the material. And so, yeah, like, just all these little pieces of beauty. And I think that's the thing that also was so striking for me in the experience, is like to be able in this realm, be able to access feelings that are so powerful and so deep, was like mind-blowing. And part of that, I think too, goes into like that intention setting, because it, the intention of wanting answers for certain things. And I think getting to be able to feel the frequency, like the vibrational frequency of that in the session, is a huge part in terms of like the benchmark for some of those questions that you go in with. Yeah. So cool. So I know we're just talking about it, but if you're thinking about doing a QHHT, Joy is definitely the one to go to, because it's so powerful. Yeah. So that's, I mean, kind of me going on about what I love about your work, but what do you really love about your work?
My favorite part, I think, of every single session is that moment when my client feels that all-encompassing love, that there's a part in every session that it's a universal thing, because your guides want you to know how loved you are. And it's completely euphoric and like nothing I'd ever experienced before. But I think that's probably my favorite part, is to see my clients feel that love for themselves and to see how amazing they truly are, because that's something that your guides want you to see. But I think that's the part that moves me the most. And then it's also super fun to be able to like have conversations with higher dimensional beings. I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Well, it's like what you said, like this work is the same as the similar experience as to what you would experience on psychedelics, but you're doing it just in your own nature.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's like, just to kind of describe what it's like from a client's perspective. So it's basically like you're in a waking dream. Your eyes are closed and you're just visualizing. You're in this dream, technical. It depends on how you perceive things, but for me, it's like technical, or I can see all the things. And you're describing everything that's happening to me, and then I'm helping you kind of find clarity with it, figure out what's happening. Because if you think about dreams that you have, they come through kind of disjointed, and you never really, sometimes you don't know what's going on. But yeah, it's basically like being in a waking dream and having someone there to guide you, and then to actually question your guides, angels, ancestors, when they come through with messages. That's another really fun part.
Yeah.
Is helping my clients learn the language of their guides, because they don't always speak English, right? They'll speak in symbols and riddles, but we are able to really get through to them and figure out what it is they're trying to explain. And then it helps my clients to be able to continue that conversation after the session, which is amazing. That's the end goal.
I love that. I've never thought of it from that perspective, how you're describing like the being in a lucid dream state. And yeah, it's totally being like, and I think that's why that lucid state is sometimes, it's like so powerful, but choppy, like you said, is because often it's such a lucid state that we either wake up or we slip back into deep sleep.
Right.
But it's like you're in that state, and yeah, having someone who's able to continue, like who's able to keep you there and like kind of keep the narrative going. Absolutely. Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. And like you said too, so important. And because I think this is a piece, even with meditation work. Hello to everyone who's popping on live. Michelle, Nicole, so good to have you guys here. But where was I with well, lost it. In the dream state. Oh my gosh, where was I, Joy?
Oh, I'm not sure. Yeah, you were talking about being in the lucid dream state, and then you didn't connect.
I didn't start my next piece. It'll come back.
Maybe about the guides, because that was the last thing I.
Oh yes, yeah. So the language, I love how you were bringing in about how it can come through as symbols, because this is what with meditation, often people will get so caught up in their rational mind, and it will be, well, no, like I think maybe I was making it up, or it didn't really come to me, or we just try to talk ourselves, like we bring logic in. Whereas like, yes, it can come through, wisdom can come through as symbols or riddles, or like even galactic language, right? When it's those galactic guides, that it's coming in a totally different language.
Yes.
But you can still like, you're still at an energetic level and cellular level receiving the information. And so in that case, you're still able to access the wisdom through your intuition, if we can get the logic and rational mind out of the way.
Right. Yeah.
Which is so powerful to have a facilitator, to have someone like you who can also, that's like in the same way that you're leading them through that lucid state, you're also just in your sheer presence, also affirming what's coming through, right?
Right, exactly. Well, and what's so incredible about doing this work is that there's so many universal truths that come through. So for example, there's a place that most people go. It's like this crystalline city. And then there's also similar messages that come through from guides, that we are all one. But they'll say it in different ways. It'll be in different sessions, they're always reminding us that we're all one, that we're one consciousness. Yeah, it's beautiful. And it's so validating, because you do, right? It shocked me after my first session when I was training, my first response afterwards was, did I make that up? which shocked me. It completely shocked me that that was my response, because I'm studying this. I felt it in my soul that this is my life work. This is what I'm supposed to be doing. But that's how strong your conscious mind is. That conditioning is, did I make that up? And, a lot of clients go through that as well. And I remember asking you after your session, did you experience that? And you were like, no, oh no, it was all so real and so clear that I didn't doubt it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it came through. Like, I can remember maybe an inkling at first of like that, because I went in with the like, who's going to be there. So like, I think there was like that part of my rational mind was like, where am I going to end up? Where are we going to go today? But then, yeah, I mean, once it came through and I was up on that grass, like I can remember every detail, I swear. Like I was up on that grassy cliffside, and then saying goodbye to my husband, and like then everything, yeah, it was like I was there.
Yeah.
Like I could, if I ever if I ever found myself in that town in this lifetime, I would know exactly where I am. So
Yeah, it blew me away that you actually, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, that you actually knew specifically where it was. You knew exactly where it was, in south of France, or
yeah.
I think it shifted. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which really has me keen to like go and see if I can find it. Yeah.
I remember right afterwards, you're like, I'm moving to France.
We're going, honey. Ian's up for it. It's just like when, I suppose. Yeah. And I mean, and it comes up like, I think again, that's probably part of what's really significant about these sessions is I had a lifetime there. Can you imagine what it would be like to go and plant my feet on that soil, and knowing also like also those glimpses of, I had a powerful like group of women, that I worked like, where we were dancing and casting our magic. So to know that energy was also present in that lifetime, like to be able to go and on that land connect. I mean, I'm going to have to go.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. Just to know yourself on that level, to really reconnect with your soul and your spirit and all of these different layers of who you are. It's so powerful. Yeah.
It's been interesting too. I haven't shared this with you, but we do homemade pizza night on Fridays. And again, just going back to like that benchmark feeling tone that came through. So one of the glimpses that I had in the session was like in my home, I had that like this bench underneath this window where I would make my bread. And the more like, how beautiful that morning sunlight is, right? Like that dawn twilight light was just shining in through that window. So it was like that feeling tone of how, and then like you said, that like when those moments of love come through in those sessions, and it was that, like, it was just pure freedom and liberation, me doing something I absolutely loved. Out the window, I could see my kids running around the yard. And it was just like, I mean, a moment of total truth. But I find now in this life, there's often like the light will come into our house in a similar way from the front and the back windows and dawn and dusk. And when I'm rolling out that pizza dough, it takes me back to that moment. And it's a really cool way to be able to feel that experience from another lifetime come through and connect me into that feeling state here and now.
Right.
Yeah, it's really magical. Like that you can hold for people to have this experience. One of the things that I also wanted to ask about is, especially with the work of the divine feminine, a lot of people, we like don't want to do the hard work. I like scared of trauma, don't want to lean into the things that are dark or sinful or taboo. This is one of the things about the divine feminine, is that we are also like the warrior goddess, right? We have the strength and the power and can stand as these pillars where, yes, like it's about love and light and liberation, but it's also about being able to be these powerful women who can we aren't shunning anything. There's like leaning into the trauma, leaning into the dark, because understanding that even more is on the other side through that. So as you've been doing this work and going through this journey yourself, are there parts of this that have brought discomfort with it for you?
Of course, absolutely. Well, that's the other half of the work, because you can reconnect and remember who you are at the soul level, but we've still got to work with all this conditioning. I mean, we're conditioned from the moment that we come out of the womb, sometimes in the womb, right? I mean, there's already events happening before you're even born. And so, I mean, those two things go hand in hand, remembering who you are at a soul level, but then you also have to do all of this work of clearing all of the conditioning. And that's why I was so grateful to find this work, because there were parts of myself, that unhealed trauma, that I was accepting. I didn't even know I could heal them. I was accepting them as personality traits, things that like deep, deep wounds. And being able to heal, I'm not finding the words, but being able to heal those things and being able to do it so quickly at like in a quantum speed, right? Because you're in the quantum field, it's very uncomfortable. And it's not the healing part that's uncomfortable. It's all of the pushing away and the not wanting to do the healing, and like, oh, I'm not ready to do that. And all the resistance, right? It's all the resistance of the healing or to the healing. But then once you get to the space of the healing, it's easy, it's like you flow right through it. But that's what's so beautiful about this work. But I think that's where most of the discomfort has come, because again, it's not like you just find yourself at the soul level and you can just step fully into that. There's a lot of work to do. We have to really look at the deep, dark parts of ourselves that we're ready to release.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's what I think, again, this is the power of, and I love that you said that these are the things that we often will like resist and we will avoid. And it's like, I mean, I think many of us, especially after the last 2 years, like we're pretty habituated with working through things. But I think just by bringing in that piece of, there's always this thing that we like to resist or we want to avoid, because it's a little bit deeper and it's a little bit darker. And sometimes on our own, it's just so hard to get there. And like, I think of, this is when I come and call on you, like, Joy, I need a session. Yep. And I mean, like the longer the QHHT sessions are so powerful, but you also offer like shorter condensed sessions that are, very similar in terms of what a client is able to access. And these are what like I don't know how many we've done, but they've all been so transformative. Yeah. I'm even thinking of like the most recent one we had, which just completely flipped the energy that I've been operating in and has liberated me in so many ways and like directly impacted my work and what I'm doing creatively with it. And often that's the power of a facilitator, is because for me, when I've come to you is if I've tried, right? When I tried to do it on my own, I'm doing the work, which is great, but there's still like this like piece that's just like niggling, or this puzzle piece that I just can't shift. And having a facilitator to hold that space has helped. Like, it's always just one way to get into it instead of resisting, like, or when your resistance is really up, which means that you also have to be conscious and aware that it's up in the first place.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. And likewise, because we've traded quite a few sessions, and your astral weaving sessions are wow. I mean, you're able. So what's beautiful about this work is once you're able to access your guides, right? This realm, the quantum field, once you get practiced in it, you can just drop right in. You don't have to do the whole, long session. And I know we tackled some huge things like lifelong, like sexual trauma, like shame, all kinds of things. But it's like what I was saying before, it's that resistance to healing it is where all the pain is, because we were able to go in and it was so beautiful. And it's like all my guides and angels came in and they showed me the meaning behind it and how to forgive. And, hour and a half, we're able to clear like a lifetime of sexual trauma. Like it still blows my mind. That one's going to bring tears to my eyes, because it blows my mind how much we sit in the pain, but it can be released. It's the resistance that you have to get through. And you're right. It's just knowing when it's time to ask for help and have someone else hold space for you.
Yeah. And it's, yes, you have someone holding space for you, but in both techniques, that person still isn't doing the healing. Yes, they're holding the space, but you're still the one. It's completely liberating, because you're still the one who has to do the work.
Right.
Yeah. So it's like, you're not looking to someone else, there's someone else isn't the answer. Someone else is the space holder.
Right.
You're the answer. You're the one who does the work. Yeah.
Exactly. And that space holder is just helping you find the clarity. They're helping you see the blind spots that you can't see, which it's just so, I'm just so grateful that I found this work, because
I'm grateful you found the work. Yeah, I know. Well, and that you are able to be the space holder. Sorry, again, it's funny how pieces keep coming out. It's going to come back because the other one just did. Sorry, everyone, for the pause. No, I guess it doesn't. Oh, I was going to say, and the power of our guides, like not only do you have that other person just with their vision on it, but you also have you have your guides and their set of guides also. So like you really have like a massive team there supporting you. Hi, Christine. So glad you're here. Yeah. So that's, I mean, there's so much energy. And actually it's funny how going back to the, like, yes, this is more of this divine feminine energy work, but I can think specifically of the feeling after some of these sessions with you. Like you said, like it's very similar, like woozy headed kind of, or lightheaded, in terms of that sacred, like that feeling working with psychedelic drugs.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. You're doing a lot of energy work. Yeah.
It's so powerful and completely euphoric. I'm flashing back to all the sessions I've done with you now too.
And I think the power too of having the facilitator is because that there's a lot of integration after, right? Like there's like coming down and even more pieces to put together, and sometimes even more things coming together after, and still having someone else there to sort of support you and celebrate, like you said, with the how you work, it is like celebrating. Yeah, I feel like it's been such a beautiful thing in terms of sisterhood. Like I feel like it's been so beautiful to see something bring me so close to someone else too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, and that's actually why I created my awakening program, because I found that a lot of my clients would have these experiences, but then they didn't have the support system afterwards. They didn't have anybody they could talk to about it. It's like, okay, so I'm a multi-dimensional being from another planet. Now what? Like go back to their everyday life and they don't have anyone to talk to about it. And so that's why I created the awakening programs, just so that they could feel more supported through the whole process of integration afterwards. And, what do I do now? Because in the questions that you're asking for advice, basically from your guides, from your higher self. And so they're basically giving you assignments, but you have to act on those things, right? You have to make the changes and implement the things. So and that's what we do a lot of in that.
And that's that divine, that's the balance of the divine feminine. And this is your feminine energy is what it's allowing you to access this wisdom and this realm. But then you have to come in with your sacred masculine energy and do the work, do the pieces, like, yeah, take note of the assignment and actually do something about it. That's that embodiment piece, which if you want to see the change, right? If you actually want to see the change, then you've got to
Right.
do the change.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd love for you to tell me. So, like, if people are really interested in this work and either want to just connect with you and talk more, or
Yeah,
if they're wanting to know about your programs, do you want
sure.
to just talk to those things a little bit more? Where can they?
Absolutely. So I'll just give you some ways to contact me first. So I'm at Finding Cosmic Joy on all platforms. So that's how you can find me there. On Facebook, well, yeah, at Finding Cosmic Joy. And then my website is findingcosmicjoy.com. And so I do free discovery calls. So, and I truly mean this. If you are on a spiritual journey and you're feeling lost, like, oh my gosh, I don't know what's happening. Like these guides are talking to me. I'm like, what is, I've discovered I'm from a different star system or whatever the thing. I would love to hear your story. I know that sounds strange, but it's, I really, not even if you don't want to work with me, I still want to chat with you because this is what I do. This is what brings me pure joy. But so you can go on my website, you just click on book a session, and I do free discovery calls where we can just chat about my different offerings. You can also just book a session straight there on the website. And then for my programs, I'm actually opening enrollment either in August or September. So if you go follow me on social media, or if you reach out and want to know more about that, just send me a text. You can also do instant message on my website and I'll get right back to you. So
Awesome. And those programs, like you were just talking about, like to support the awakening process as you're going through. So to that lost and like feeling crazy and like, what is going on? Like, who am I and where did I come from feeling?
yeah,
It's a program to support you to like make sense of all of that.
exactly.
And
So
so,
we do group journeys. We do group journeys where you get practice accessing these realms. And then that's for about the first month. And so you have the community where you're getting to know other people who are going through the same things. And then everybody in the program gets a one-on-one session as well. And then after the one-on-one session, I share my technique on how to process. I developed a technique for that. And yeah, and then it's really settling into developing your intuitive gifts and really practicing learning the language of your guides. So yeah, super fun.
sounds so yummy. Yay. Well, Joy, I am so happy that you could come on to this episode this month. It's been such a joy having you here. And just, yeah, getting to talk about this wisdom and this magic and this work and these realms and the multi-dimensional capacities that we all have. So yeah, thank you so much for being open to sharing your journey and to sharing more about your work, and to help to be a voice in breaking the taboo around all things that are taboo and bringing back in that sacred element. So yeah, thank you so much for your time. And definitely for everyone who's listening on the live, or if you're catching this on the replay, reach out to Joy, even if you want to just in the chat box, even put in questions here, because then everyone gets to see them. And like Joy's talking about, like often these are things, experiences that we aren't alone in. So this is a great platform to share that and establish that connection with everyone, but definitely reach out and get in touch with her. So yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Meg. This was so much fun. I really appreciate it.
It really was. All right. We will hop off. I will talk to you soon. And thank you to everyone who joined us, everyone who's brought in their energy into this space. It means so much to have you guys here. And so this week was this episode's Sacred Sex, Drugs, and Rock and Roll. And then next week we're into August. So we'll be back into the August cycle. So the first week will be the Sacred Sexuality Q&A. So next Wednesday, join me with any questions that you have around sacred sexuality. It is a safe space where you're free to come with any questions. There's nothing too silly. It's the space. So thank you so much to everyone, and we'll see you again soon. Thanks, Joy. Mwah.